Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Thank you for listening to the Echols Unlimited podcast. I'm your host, Terrence Echols, and today I have a fantastic episode for you. It is featuring a good friend and teammate of mine. His name is Alex Gould. Alex is currently a strategic analyst for the Cleveland Guardians. He also does PA for Case Western Reserve University Sports. He and I had a great conversation today. We talk a lot about his upbringing, his background, and how he got into working in sports. So if you're interested in working in sports or you want to learn more about some of the people who have their positions within organizations, please give it a listen, check it out, and I hope you enjoy. Here's my episode with Alex Gould. In preparation for the college version of the big game, right?
Yeah. We're getting ready, man.
Right. Who you got tonight?
Ohio State, man. All about Ohio State.
Right, exactly.
Well, you see, I don't know. Here's the thing. Everyone's saying, it's more than talent. It's a team chemistry game. But that Michigan loss, dude, I think it sparked something in him. It changed something for him.
Right.
And they have the most talent probably in the country. So I'm rocking with your hoodie there.
Clearly. Yeah, exactly. So I'm representing Ohio State today. Yeah. I know a lot of our friends around the office and in the community are pulling for them too, just us being both here, but both of us being transplants, I figure it is what it is.
Much allegiance, yeah.
Yeah. Who is your college team?
Well, so my dad's from Nebraska. I go to the College World Series in Omaha every year.
Yeah.
I love the state. So I grew up Cornhusker fan, I guess. In Illinois, I'm from Chicago, obviously. So it's all pro sports, really.
Right.
So mostly pro sports for me, Nebraska. And then my mom and a bunch of my closest friends actually went to Michigan. So I know.
Don't say that too loud.
Tough look. In Ohio, 2 hours from Columbus or whatever we are. But I think those are my two. But it's not like a deep allegiance, I'd say. But Ohio State and Michigan are my two teams. Or sorry, Nebraska and Michigan, I'd say, are my two teams.
Okay.
Ohio State and Michigan would be crazy. Nebraska and Michigan are my two, I'd say. So I guess for that, I should be rooting for Notre Dame. But they're both just so unlikable, these teams. It's like really astounding that we got this type of matchup.
Yeah.
With the two maybe most hated teams in college football.
Yeah.
Facing off.
Right. And I guess that's sort of like the Midwest version of like two teams people really don't like.
Yeah.
Because for me personally, that matchup had been a couple years ago when it was Michigan versus Georgia. Those are the teams I hate the most.
Interesting. So it could just be a regional thing.
Right, exactly. But yeah, I think like...
Wait, why do you hate Georgia?
Don't let me get into that because that will be an hour-long conversation.
I'm ready.
It stems from my love for Auburn.
Yeah.
But I've just grown to despise and hate everything about Georgia and the University of Georgia.
Yeah.
I love Atlanta. All my family lives down there.
I know you go a lot. That's why I was wondering.
Yeah, no, I have to argue with my uncles and aunts about football games a lot when I'm down there because they all root for UGA and I'm just like, I hate UGA. Like, I can't stand.
That's funny. That's really funny.
But when it comes to college football, those are the two teams like I really don't want to see win. Everyone else, Alabama too. I don't like Alabama.
So many years of dominance. It's just like, it's aggravating.
Right.
At a certain point.
Right. And then as an Auburn fan, you just can't like Alabama.
Yeah.
Like you can dislike Georgia, but you have to hate Alabama. And I just hate both. So
you're all in on the hate train.
Right.
Good college basketball season for you right here.
Yeah.
I know football hasn't been the best lately, but you're number one right now.
Right. Auburn's killing it. However, I do follow a lot of Syracuse too. So I'm hoping they can, grow on some of the momentum that they have right now. But yeah, are you college? I know you call college basketball, so that might
be D3.
Right. D3. Yeah, whatever level is whatever level. But do you follow any college basketball teams, or is it the same as your?
I'd say
football?
Same too as football.
Okay.
Obviously, neither have been the most relevant lately in basketball. Nebraska's never really been relevant. Michigan, it's kind of like a roller coaster up down. But but again, it's it's just this weird thing for me. The college allegiance just doesn't run that deep, I think, compared to a lot of people, just because I grew up on Chicago pro sports.
Right.
But I love watching. I'll say I mostly tune in when March gets close. So now we're around the time where I'm starting to get into it a little bit, starting to watch it a little bit more. But March Madness, that's, I think, the greatest. I don't think there's a better sporting event in America. I mean, obviously you can say like the World Cup in soccer, right? And that's global. But in America, I think that's
spectacle. Yeah,
it's the best it gets. The grandeur. I mean, you agree with that?
I definitely think it's up there. Like,
what do you think is in the realm?
Like, I think that's a really good point, and I think, man, okay, just the whole, like, are we talking the NCAA tournament or just March Madness, the spectacle as a whole, like including conference tournaments? Like, I guess pretty much from the beginning of March to whenever the national championship normally is, the Final Four is like April 8th or something.
Yeah, I feel like I'm thinking about like that core month, but largely the tournament, I'd say.
Okay, yeah, that's probably the biggest part of it.
Yeah.
I probably would agree. Yeah, like even a World Series, what else? Like big NASCAR races, big F1 races, like people I know get hyped about those. World Cup, I'd probably say it's second behind World Cup.
I would probably,
because just World Cup is
like global. Like we don't even understand.
Yes,
global scale is so massive.
Right,
it's unbelievable.
But then think about the Super Bowl.
Yeah, how big the viewership is.
Yeah, see, Super Bowl is something like college basketball sports fans will watch, but the Super Bowl is something Americans do.
Yeah,
like that's something every American will do.
Some people watch for the halftime, the commercials. And then, I mean, the World Cup, I'm pretty sure the World Cup is like 10 times the viewership of the Super Bowl or something like that, just because it's
big in every country.
It's big everywhere.
Yeah.
But I don't know. For me, maybe it's just a bias thing. I just think my favorite event is
March Madness.
Okay,
I agree.
I think my favorite's March Madness. And the grandeur, I guess I'm just not counting World Cup because I view it as it's global, I guess. But just like the grandeur as far as like American sports goes, March Madness. Especially those first two rounds, man.
Yes.
Just games on games.
Exactly.
Brackets getting busted left and right. That's the most fun. I still have memories of high school when, we have our computers and we're like taking notes and every single computer has March Madness on it.
Nobody's paying attention.
No one.
Yeah.
Dude, in the cafeteria, they would put it up on the TVs and it was like never more excited for lunch in my life. In like elementary school, middle school, high school, than when those first two rounds were for March Madness. Oh, man, it's just nostalgia.
Yeah, it's a different animal. Like I can't. My mom. So I was born March 2nd of 1999.
Okay.
My mom always tells a story about the first few months of my life were spent watching March Madness, or the first few weeks of my life, like while she was home on paternity leave. Like all she did was sit and watch college basketball all day, because it was perfect timing. Being born on March 2nd, like ain't nothing else to do.
Yeah.
So she would just watch college basketball, and to this day, that's what she points to as to me why I'm so obsessed with sports.
That's so funny.
Is because I just spent the first few weeks of my life watching March Madness. So
that's it.
I guess that's how we got.
And you play college ball yourself.
I did.
There you go.
I did.
She might not be wrong.
Right.
That's funny.
Right. Yeah. But let's talk a little bit more about your upbringing and your background. I know you already mentioned you're born and raised in Chicago.
Yeah.
What was your sort of like introduction to sports? Like did you play a lot as a kid, or were you always going to be an announcer, or what was sort of the upbringing?
Man, so first off, this is so funny to me, getting asked questions about like my upbringing, because as like I told you, like I've had my podcast for years.
Right.
I've never been the one being asked a question ever. And I'm like, how do I answer this? Am I comfortable with it?
Right. Yeah.
I'm just so used to being on your end.
Yeah.
But anyways, dude, it was sports for me was interesting. Like my parents weren't that into it at all. My dad, I'd say mostly limited to Nebraska. He actually went to a Final Four once. So too. So he's more in the college scene a little bit.
Okay.
My mom never could. She could not care less.
Fair.
And funny enough, like when I when basically I had my first interview with the Guardians, she doesn't follow sports, and also with the name change too, she had no idea like what it was and why I was even excited, which was so fun. We had to talk about it like a week later. I'm like, no, that's an MLB team. Like the MLB mom. She's
right.
Like, what? But yeah, so I don't know. I kind of just found myself a little bit. Like I just was always interested in watching it, always interested in playing it. I just loved everything to do with it always. It was just clicked, I guess. And then I guess the broadcasting started in middle school. Right. And that's when I started getting into the side of like, I like playing, but maybe there's more I could do outside of that. Maybe I could venture off. Started middle school. The whole school was subjected for like 2 minutes every Friday for some reason to hear me doing my video sports announcements every Friday morning. And I don't know how that even happened, but the broadcasting teacher, we were just talking about sports one day. It was, he forgot Cam Newton was a rookie at the time in Carolina.
Oh, wow.
He forgot the name he just forgot Cam Newton's name. He's like, who's that Panthers rookie QB is good? It was in broadcasting class. I'm like, Cam Newton. And somehow that set him off. He's like, you know so much about sports.
Right, yeah.
And then from there, had my morning announcements, and I was very shy in middle school.
Okay.
And like my whole life leading up to it. I did not talk a lot. It was well known that I just like, not a thing I did.
Right.
So it almost changed like how I approach conversing. I got so much more comfortable sharing my opinions. I got so much more comfortable like vocalizing my thoughts and things. And then it transitioned and advocating for myself if needed.
Right.
Transitioned into high school. Two of my really, really good friends, who I'm still close friends with to this day, got me on the radio show. And then I got into that from there, had a radio show with 3 of them, then got my own radio show, made a podcast out of that. And one of my other friends asked me to PA announce baseball because he was on the baseball team.
Right.
And I started that. So it kind of just ballooned from there. And I think when I started the radio shows and podcasts, that's when it like really started flowing for me of, I love this. Talking to people, learning about people, knowing which questions to ask. Again, like it completely changed the way that I socialize and interact with people. I fully credit broadcasting for that, like almost entirely, I would say.
Wow.
I know, it was amazing. And I kind of thought it was going to end in college. And I went, obviously I went to Case Western, which is like not, it's D3. So they don't have like,
it's a great school though.
Amazing. I'm super grateful that I was able to go to Case, I think, because, for one, like the fact that I could go to a school where it's small and private, I could have like all sorts of resources. And also it was affordable for me, which I did not expect and was really, really grateful for. Yeah. I was planning to go to Illinois always because that was my in-state school. I thought it'd be the cheapest, and Case kind of snuck in there a little bit. And we would not probably know each other if I didn't go to Case, because I doubt I would be in this job without Case.
Yes.
But yeah, so I am super indebted to Case and like what it did for me now to get this job I'm grateful for. And also, I guess while we're talking about broadcasting, like it really, it did a lot for me there. There's no journalism program. It's D3 sports, but I was always really just like wanting to be involved in campus and like do things. So it was through student government my freshman year. I joined that, and I met I think the assistant AD, just because we were talking about student government stuff. And I said, and I totally diverted this group conversation. I'm like, so I did this broadcasting thing for years. Is there any opening?
Right.
And I learned there was. So I was able to kind of get involved with announcing a couple sports there, play-by-play, color, PA. And what are we now? 6.5 years later. We are getting old. 6.5 years later, I guess, for me now. I'm still doing it.
Right.
So it's awesome. I love it to death. It's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you're killing it. And it is really cool to hear sort of how broadcasting and just like an obsession with sports like shaped some of your personal skills like to this day.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Like, again, like I think about it sometimes, like if I didn't join those morning announcements in middle school, would I still not know how to talk to people? Like I might not. I truly might not. And I legitimately mean that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Right.
So I credit it fully and I love it to death. It's interesting too, like I always liked playing, but I knew it was never gonna like be something for me. Like we always joke, like to my grandpa always said this because I'm Jewish. He was always like, us Jewish people, Alex, like we push pencils, not balls. Yeah. This is what he said to my mom. This is what he said to me. Like, he's like, this is just what we do, Alex.
Right.
You focus on school, not sports, which is funny. And like, again, I always liked sports, but I was never like great at them. I was fine. Tennis, I was probably better at than any others.
Okay.
Baseball too, I was all right with. But yeah, for me, announcing was like actually something like, whoa, like I'm actually good at this. And I don't know. I thought if I want to even do more than just Case with it to this day, I don't know. I guess we'll see. But I love what I'm doing where I'm at, and I'm just grateful I get to. So.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, you've got time. You're what, 24? Like,
yes, sir.
You have plenty of time.
We're mid-20s now, though, man. Time goes by fast. But plenty of time.
Yeah, no, dude. Talk about getting old. I'll be 26 very soon.
Yeah,
like, it's insane.
Yeah.
but no, that's awesome. So like you came to the time to where you're at Case and you're sort of finding your groove and finding what you like to do and what you want to do.
Yeah.
What made you want to pursue um, business analytics, sort of the what made you want to get into sort of like the business side of things, and especially like what did you study like outside of being super involved in student government, which any person I talk to from Case, I always mention Alice Gould, and they're like, oh yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
you never told me that.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
A handful of people that I've talked to, they all know who you are. So I'm like,
kind of funny,
right?
Oh,
so
man.
I'm like, yeah, that's Alex. Like he's just super involved person, really nice guy. Like, but what were you like studying? What made you want to like pursue a career to where you are now with the Guardians?
Yeah. So I actually studied marketing, which I don't think I've told you that before.
Okay.
But so I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, honestly. Like, I thought it was something in the business world, but I didn't know. Like, I thought marketing was just kind of general, broad strokes, and that would work. And I had some interesting internships in the space. I also do think there was a side of me that was interested in politics, policy. I also, with my good friend Nikki, we started the undergraduate UNICEF chapter at Case too.
Oh, nice.
So, which was a lot of why I wanted to get like volunteer now with RMHC, which is funny.
Exactly.
But anyways, yeah. So we started the UNICEF chapter, and I was like, I don't know, like public policy could be around government, and that was.
I can see you doing that too,
dude. I don't know what it is. I just like so many things. I don't know. I need to narrow. I guess I have narrowed at this point, but I just like stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I interned for the Senate, which was great. And I, who knows? I guess life's long, but I think I'm really happy with where I'm at now.
Yeah.
And I kind of looked into it. Like, again, I studied marketing. A lot of my internships were more so in that or the public policy space, like strategy, analytics, sports. Like, I applied to a lot of jobs. I never got an interview though.
Right.
Literally never.
Yeah.
So I kind of, and I got actually, what really sparked it goes all the way back to, man, it was a 60 Minutes documentary I saw. I was probably like 12. And it was just about this budding field of sports strategy, sports analytics.
Yeah.
And it was just fascinating to me. I saw this documentary. I was like, I want to do that.
Right.
So that's what really sparked it all that time ago. It was probably close to when I started doing broadcasting stuff. So I kept on all of a sudden looking at sports in new ways of, I don't have to be the one playing to be involved in ways that interest me.
Right.
But I just kept on thinking, it probably just wasn't a reality for me right out of school. And that's okay. Like, I could get a grad degree, I could work somewhere else, I could find my way if I want to eventually. And I got really lucky that, there was an open position on our business strategy team here. They were maybe hoping to get someone from Case with the Guards because I don't think we had anyone.
Oh, yeah.
And our president, I think, used to be neighbors with the associate VP of student affairs for Case.
Okay.
Who knew me because of student government.
Right.
He also talked to the head of career services for Case, who also knew me. We just got along well. He helped me with a lot of career stuff.
Of course, yeah.
Dude, I don't know what it was at Case. I was just like, I think I'll get to that in a second, anyways. But
right.
But anyway, so they knew me, and I just like, I guess I just got lucky that they wanted to recommend me, and I thought I bombed on my interviews, and I guess I didn't because I'm here, so I'm grateful.
Who'd you interview with?
I thought the one I bombed, I was, I think technically it was a second round. It was with, who was it? Colleen, so HR, and then Christy, Brady, Ty. So like the rest of the strategy crew.
Yes.
I thought I bombed it.
Really?
Totally. I thought I was not getting that job.
Oh my gosh.
At least compared to what I could do, I was like, I could have been so much better.
Right.
And I'm lucky they still wanted to give me like a little bit more of a shot, I guess.
Right.
And then bring me in. So
exactly.
Or at least bring me in for another round. So.
Yeah.
And I did well in the last round. So I felt a lot better after that.
Right. And that's all that matters at that point.
Yeah.
Like, as long as you're, Hold on. I'm just now seeing DeMar Hamlin wearing a Guardian cap. Wow.
That
makes sense.
It does make sense. He, if anyone would.
Right.
Poor guy.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I'm actually glad that he's still out there making plays and stuff, but I'm also glad he's wearing a Guardian cap. But
me too.
Anyway, going on. I think it's important though, the fact that you thought you weren't doing well in the interview process, and then you just like ended up killing it on the last round. And I think that's all that matters at the end of the day, is like just if you kill that last interview, that's the one they're going to make the decision on. So
yeah,
as long as you make it to that point.
And I'm glad I did, man.
Yeah.
I feel fortunate I did. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Like it's also tough. Like you're not always going to crush it every day.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm someone who I like to be like I'm a little bit like, I like to be critical of myself just so I grow. And I remember leaving that one before and I was like, there's a lot I could be doing better. I can't mess it up again. If I move on and this is like a job I really, really want, I can't, we have to be better here. So it was like it's good, reflection, thinking about where you could improve or could grow from, and then boom, going from there. So I feel lucky that I got pushed and I knew exactly what I needed to focus on for that last round.
Oh, great.
So that's good, man. That was good. Yeah. What was I'm trying to think, what was your journey to the guards? Did you cold apply?
No, I had connected with Courtberry Tripp on LinkedIn. Shout out to Courtberry Tripp. That's my guy. And I was applying for another internship, and within that process, they introduced me to RAF.
Okay.
And sort of that's kind of how it took off. But like it's crazy how stuff like that works out because it isn't always the linear path that you'll take from a job where you'll go to school for 4 years, you maybe do a grad degree, and then like you'll apply, and then there's hundreds if not thousands of companies that are hiring for that job every year. Whereas like now, if you want to work in professional sports, like say you want to work in the big three, there's less than 100 jobs. If you really think about it, there's less than 100 companies that you're vying for a job with. And then if you even bring it down to another level, for particular to sport, like say you want to work in baseball, there's 30 jobs in the United States where you could, or not 30 jobs, but there's 30 companies within the United States. And
front offices are lean,
Yeah.
Some of those companies, there's a good chance they're not hiring anyone for a role you're interested in.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think that's something people don't really understand sometimes. They look at big, giant sports organizations and be like, oh, they're worth X amount of money. Oh, they got to have, staff for days. But the reality of it is our front office, just like every other front office and every other league, is, like you said, pretty lean. A lot of people wearing multiple hats. A lot of, oh, man, like I can't tell you the number of people within our organization who, like, you're just blown away by. Like, I don't know if you've had that same sort of sentiment, but like just blown away by the quality of people that we get and the quality of workers that we get as well. It's a good mix.
I think there's something to like working in something that like people really like desire to be a part of. And I think it like there's this like collective sense of maybe appreciation, gratitude, happiness to be there, and like I think it brings us together. I think people really work hard. They care a lot. Like, I don't think it's like pretty awesome that we're in this organization where we don't have coworkers who are like, oh, I don't want to be here today. Or like, we're all excited and we can celebrate things together. Like, look at this playoff run we just had. We got to collectively as a unit, like experience that together.
Right.
That's pretty beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to hear you go on about the Lane train and then Lane Thomas.
Dude.
Shout out to Lane Thomas.
Shout out. Great acquisition.
Came in clutch for us so many times.
You got to not hear the end of it from me, dude. I'm telling you, he stays healthy. Unlike Mike Trout.
Right. Yeah, all right. Yeah. But no, it's cool that we get to experience things like that with the people we work with where like at the end of the day, we all work in an office and, we perform the tasks that are necessary for a business.
Correct.
But then at the end of the day, we get to watch our team go out there and compete against all the other teams. And that's the unique thing about sports is like, you'll leave the 9 to 5 of it and then you'll become a fan for a few hours. And then you go back to work the next day. And part of the next day at the 9 to 5 is you just get to be fans again with all the other people in the office.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty special. It's especially obviously when you make a run, but in general, it's just like awesome to be a part of.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Do you think like since you stopped playing college basketball, like has being a part of the front office like helped fuel your competitive fire still? Is it like filled the void a little bit, I guess?
Certainly, yeah. That's a good point because I think a lot of people, when they stop playing a sport that they played, I played probably 20 years, close to that. I stopped playing at 23, very close to 20 years. Once you stop playing, a lot of people are looking for that something to sort of fill your void. When I was in college, I played basketball quite literally every single day for 5 years in a row.
Yeah.
And now you have to enter, this new phase of your life, whether it's the workforce or whatever you're doing next in your life.
Yeah.
And I think you find things to replace that with. So part of me being a basketball player was I was a huge fan. Stories of me losing my voice, there are many stories of me losing my voice playing with my just being on the bench and during games and stuff like that, from being a huge cheerleader. So I get the fandom back now that I work with the Guardians.
That's cool.
And then another thing was just the competitiveness and putting your body through something every single day. That's how I was just talking about this the other day. I've gotten really into running now.
Yeah.
And now I'm huge into distance running. You find things to replace that. So yeah, I'm not sure if you've had a similar experience with stuff where you have something, you lose it, but then you have to replace it with something else, and something you become equally sort of obsessed with.
I think that's cool too. Sometimes change can be hard, and sometimes you don't want to replace something in your life. I don't want to give up on this. I want it to still be a part of my life.
Yeah.
But maybe it's for the best.
Yeah.
And I think, and that's an interesting thing too, of losing something you really don't want to lose. And maybe you don't have that perspective to zoom out at the time, but sometimes a different path and one that you can't envision in the moment is actually maybe a better one for you. I don't know. It's also hard to compare one to one, but I think it's just a piece of, maybe it's just appreciation a little bit of it's easy to say oh, I don't want this to end, or, ooh, I want this in my life. But if we really if we kind of switch the lens a little bit, I think it's easier to say wow, this is kind of amazing that I've brought this into my life, and kind of special, and this is better than anything I could have imagined.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah. And I guess, when you take that into account, just the perspective that you have to add to how you view things and the lens that you look at life. So that's impactful for sure. So next thing I want to talk to you about is more of the broadcasting. How do you develop a skill like that? Because I'm sure people look at it and they're like, oh, I know a lot about sports. I can do this, but there's so many added things that come with it, info sheets and building those out and being able to effectively, speak to the audience and display what's going on. And how do you develop that, and what went into that?
That's a good question. So obviously, again, I didn't go to school for journalism, communications.
Right.
I didn't do any of this. I have no formal training. It was in middle school, I discovered I liked it, and I've just kept on.
Right.
Which honestly, now we're at 12 years of me doing. That's half my life I've been doing something in the broadcasting realm, which is pretty wild. But I think for me, I think it also depends what type of broadcasting. I kind of started off with the scripted announcements in middle school, for example. Right. That was you write something. It's middle school, doesn't matter. But as time goes on now, I think I would say for my radio show that I had and my podcast that I had, that was more so about thinking about just what's compelling to an audience, and that takes time, I think, to fine tune and learn. And that was more so just once you have the communication skills down, it takes time. I think the toughest one is broadcasting.
Big time.
That's the one where, whether it's obviously different if it's PA versus color versus play-by-play. But that's hard work. Yeah. I think for me, when I first started that in high school, I didn't know anything. I kind of went on there cold, and I didn't crush it. It was my worst area of broadcasting ever, and I didn't feel comfortable with it. I think for me, the hard work is learning that preparation is everything. I think for the live broadcasting, everyone does it differently. I think just nature of our generation is I like things digital, so I generally build out pretty massive Excels if I'm doing PA. just because I want to make sure I'm getting all the pronunciations right and I'm tracking everything right and all the stats I'm saying to anyone watching is correct. And then play-by-play and color, I think the research is a little bit different. I like color the most because I just like I like adding color to what we're seeing. So I think that's a lot of research of players, of any facts about the teams. But again, then so I think hard work, preparation, research did a lot for me. But I think the interesting part is how do you integrate that into your commentary, and how do you do it eloquently and effectively and timed correctly. I think that one was years, I'd say, and I'm still working on it every day. I was lucky enough to be able to shadow Hammy, so thank you, Curtis Danforth, for letting me do that. And just seeing how he prepares, I think, it was fascinating to me. He's obviously all in on paper, so it's a little.
Well, he's been doing it for decades.
Correct. And he's the best in the business. Literally. Just got an award for it.
Hall of Famer.
Yeah. So I think that was really special to be able to see how he did it. And I wrote down so many ideas for, you could prepare differently. You could do X differently, Y differently. So it's still a learning curve, but I think it's just a lot of time and preparation that was needed for that. So I don't know. It's a weird, it's not, it feels so easy when you like watch the pros do it.
Right.
And then sometimes, especially early on for me, the game started and you're like, what do I say when and how? And I mean, even radio shows, my first radio show I did, I wrote out nearly a script for myself because I was so used to my scripts in middle school. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I was like, I wanted to make sure everything was right. And obviously the authenticity piece was totally missing when I first started because of that. So it's also the balance of making sure you're prepared without being inauthentic.
Right.
So I think that's also tough to strike that balance. But I think it's been broadcasting is always something that I guess I've just like enjoyed a lot, and I've always been at least okay at, and I've been able to really grow it. So I've loved it.
Yeah. Dude, and like you said, the preparation is probably the biggest component of it, but then also being able to go off script, and especially if you're doing color, like just being able to share like little tidbits and little stories while the fan or the viewer is taking it in. And then I get another good point you made is like once they put a camera or a microphone in front of you, you have no idea how you're going to react and what you're going to do and how that's going to go.
I've even seen that with, like on my old radio show, like if I would interview different friends of mine, some of them would be exactly how I thought they'd be on air. And others were so different. Like their personalities were just different than I expected them to be, or different than in person, because when the mic's in front of you, it's easy to just like, especially if you're not used to it, it's easy to just get in your head and be like very calculated or overthink. It's not necessarily like a comfortable experience, at least initially.
Yes, exactly. And it takes many, many repetitions, just like pretty much everything else in life that you have to develop a skill for. It's going to take time, and it's going to take the reps and everything. So getting a little bit more into it, what have been some of the cool moments that you've had? Like, I know obviously getting to shout out Tom Hamilton is probably up there as one of your coolest experiences for sure.
Special.
And ignoring me while I'm texting you in the room right next to you.
I forgot about that. That was so funny.
Right.
And I didn't see any of y'all at first.
Yeah, exactly. We're all watching you in there, and I'm like, Alex, what's up, dude? And just no response until you see us later that day. But
me and the texting, man. Oh my gosh. I've been getting a little better though. I don't know if you've noticed. I've been trying.
A little bit. Yeah, dude. Totally. You've been getting a lot better. Sure.
Good talk.
Right.
Okay, sick.
Yeah. No. Nothing against you.
I know. Well, the thing is, I'll always answer, but the speed in which I'm checking my messages is just like, I need to improve that.
Right.
I need to improve that speed. I'm getting there.
And the thing is like I've come to learn, like some people are busy people. You're a busy guy. You have a lot of things going on. So no hard feelings, bro. You're good.
Oh man, I get so much crap for it. It's so funny. I deserve it totally.
Yeah, hey man. There's much worse things that people could rag on you for.
That's fair, I guess. I guess that's fair.
Right. Yeah. But so what are some of the other cool experiences that you've had in the broadcasting realm? Maybe games you've called and stuff like that.
Yeah, broadcasting realm. I would say obviously the shadowing was great. I would say some of my highlights, are when Case has made like tournaments, and the announcing definitely changes a lot. I've only done in PA basically, so I've done the in park and stadium for different playoff games. My favorite was probably D3 March Madness. I think that was last year. That was really cool because Case made it and hosted. And that was really fun to see the gym just packed to the brim. And the announcements totally changed because NCAA has all sorts of regulations and there's certain things that need to be told to the audience. And it's just so much more formal, and it's a lot more of a spectacle. And the energy is just, it was just buzzing. It was buzzing. So I'd say that was my favorite, probably all time. That was really special. And I was glad that I'm very glad I was able to do that. So I think announcing games like those are what inspires me to say, oh man, I want to do more of that.
Right.
I want to expand on that.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah. And I'm sure as you get older and as you get more experience, like more opportunities will come and you'll be able to do more of that. Okay. So let's switch gears again. Sorry, I'm kind of being all over the place, but there's a lot I want to talk to you about. And if you're allowed, I don't know what you're allowed to talk about in terms of this and what you're allowed to elaborate on, but I know working with the guards, you're going on year 3, right?
Yeah, man. I'm on 2.5 years. I've been there.
2.5 years, going into your 3rd season, like
3rd season now.
So what have been some of the cool projects that you've got to work on? Like I know you've been involved in some of the pretty cool things that have happened both inside and outside the ballpark. So what can you talk about and what are you allowed to talk about and some of those projects?
So I guess actually now that I think about it, this might be my 4th season because I started towards the end of 22.
Oh, wow.
So half, like a small chunk of 22.
Yeah.
And 23, 24. So we're about to start technically my 4th season, which is
year 4.
Nuts.
Yeah.
Man. And the roster's different now too. This is going to be interesting. It's my first time since being here that I, know Jimenez, know Naylor. It'll be interesting. But yeah, honestly, what's really cool about like this job is right out of the gate, I was able to be working on these projects. I'm like, you trust me with that? Fresh out of school, me?
Right.
What? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So that was, it's really cool. Basically, like, it's interesting. I never necessarily looked at consulting as an option for myself. I guess I was like, do I want to work for a consulting firm and not have control over like what companies I'm working for? And here I get to do all, the standard consulting work, but it's going to be applied to this baseball team that I care about and love deeply.
Yes.
And that's just so fulfilling for me, and to work for like a team I believe in. And I just love that so much. But yeah, my projects have mostly centered around, I'd say, like anything like fan experience, ballpark operations, I would say, are like the primary like 2 areas. Like one example was like evolving our season ticket member benefits program, working on some of the process for who our next concessions vendor would be in the ballpark. So it's a lot of just like having conversations, data analysis, coding in SQL. I love my coding days. And then just putting it together for a recommendation. So that's really the basics of it. But it's it's been a lot of fun. It's been great.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot that I didn't. Man, when I started in this job, I was like, I did not expect to be like an expert on the food and beverage operations of an MLB ballpark. Not that I'm an expert. There are definitely people who know a lot more, but I know a lot more than I thought I would.
Right. You probably know a lot more than the average person.
Definitely way more than I knew 2.5 years ago. I will say that.
Exactly.
Which is funny.
Yeah.
But it's really cool. It's also funny because you just like, I don't know if you feel this way as well, but it's just like you experience sports a little differently now. Like, especially when I go into a new arena or a new park.
Oh yeah.
Seeing team, like you're just noticing things you never used to notice. It's not 100% fun because you're paying attention to all these little things that are going on around the scenes, and you're internalizing and saying, ooh, how could this apply to us? Or interesting learnings and findings. It's just like constant head reeling.
Yes.
But it's cool to have that like extra perspective and just like look at the game differently now.
Yeah. And that's a really good point. When I first, I guess now when I'm watching sports or I'm at a game or I'm seeing what goes viral, what different teams are doing, like I'll notice little things like probably the biggest thing has been more comms related, like anything social media related or public relations related. Like, you'll see oh man, I wonder how their comms team is going to attack this. Like, I wonder how they're going to handle this on social. I wonder what that press release is going to come out and look like. Like, I guess different things like that. And then obviously the community side as well, seeing how different teams, like, one thing I will always be jealous of is how the Atlanta Braves are able to uh, they have a deal. Every single player that signs a contract with them, whether it's an extension or a free agency contract, 1% of that contract goes towards the Atlanta Braves Foundation.
Wow.
Which is like, it's so cool because you immediately, like, the second the Braves bring a player into the organization, they're immediately making an impact on the community.
That's awesome.
Whether like they are visiting hospitals every single homestand, or if they don't even bother at all to do any sort of community work at all, they're impacting regardless, just because of that money that goes
signing
towards
that contract.
One thing, like just signing the contract. Every player that comes into that organization immediately has that impact. So that's something that's really cool to me, and seeing other organizations do. And like, you want to see, like, is that possible in Cleveland? Like, we don't know. We have to figure that out. So
I didn't know Atlanta did that.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. It's really cool. Like, yeah, especially if you see guys like big name guys like Chris Sale and Acuna and Ozuna and all those big name guys, and you're like, man, like, all that money that guy's making, 1% of it goes to the Atlanta Braves Foundation.
That's cool. That's really cool.
But
I'm sure there's like so much. I'm sure you think about, like, oh, how much could we do with that 1%?
Right.
Like, oh my gosh.
yeah, exactly. People don't realize how far money goes, and especially in like community programs, like on the great big scheme of things. Like, obviously our organization signs players to huge contracts, and then we also sign giant corporate partnerships for huge numbers of or sums of money. But sometimes we don't realize like how far just like a couple $100 here, a couple $100 there goes to like providing someone in the community with a great opportunity. Or even like, say a player gets a box of batting gloves from a company that they're working with or they're partnered with, and they only use 2 pairs of the batting gloves, and they give the rest to kids in the community. Like, how far that goes. Like, kids get excited that they get to use a major league level product. Like,
that's so cool.
Yeah, so like, that's probably one of the most rewarding things about like a job like mine. But I'm sure, like, from the fan experience perspective, like, just seeing how different people react to some of the different stuff that you're working on, like, that must be cool too, right?
Opening day of last year was like, oh my gosh, I had basically like 3-ish projects that were all like
being unveiled,
pretty much like that were happening that year. And I remember being so like anxious, but so excited to see everything and check out how fans would react. And it's cool. There's some projects where I'm like, oh, will this make social media? Like, will anyone tweet about it? Which is funny. And sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Right.
But it's really like exciting and invigorating to be like, whoa, I helped make that happen.
Yeah.
But it's cool. And, like, as someone who, like, sports did a lot for me when I was young, just in terms of, like, feeling unified, feeling connected, feeling happy, it's like, I don't know, like, sometimes, I don't know if you feel this way, but I just, like, look at families at games, and you're like, if I could, if I'm doing something that can help to make that happen, or that make the experience a little bit better, like, that's a great feeling. Like, it just brings me back to my childhood. But I think that, obviously, for you, it's like, what you're doing is so much more, like, directly impactful, that I'm sure you probably feel fulfilled like every day, because you're doing stuff that is directly helping the community. Like, and I really respect that.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. And really, the credit needs to be given to Raphael Collins. Like, I'm not even kidding.
Yeah.
Because like, in the people that I get to work with every day, because coming in, and I know we talked about this earlier, like coming in to working at the Guardians, like, I don't want to work in community. Like, like, I didn't study that. I was like you. I studied advertising, marketing, and public relations when I was in college. Like, those are the things that I felt that I was qualified for. Those are things that I felt that I would do best in doing. And little did I know that you could bring that skill set into community. And now I can be like a guy that helps with a lot of our advertising, our public relations, and our marketing stuff, like different materials for like that are community related instead of being like team related. So yeah, and I mean, yeah, they sold me on the job and they sold me on the opportunity, and yeah, look at us now.
There you are.
Yeah.
That's cool that you mentioned that too, with the blending of what you studied with what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I also felt that way, where it's like I'm like, I studied this marketing thing. It's like, am I going to even use it at all for this strategy job now? Like, is there any correlation? I found like unique ways to blend it in, which is cool. I guess like one example I mentioned, our season ticket member, like benefits evolution.
Mm-hmm.
A piece of that was, there's this marketing background in me where I was looking at this program and I was like, oh man, we could really promote this differently. And that's maybe not a classic part of a strategy recommendation, but I recommended this idea of like a rebrand. And the like service team and marketing like helped execute it, and we like literally just unveiled it like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, which is really exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So you're probably going to see hopefully some more of it around the ballpark this year.
Ooh.
So yeah, so that was like one thing where I was like, without my marketing background, I don't know if that would have happened in my recommendation. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. That, I mean, wow, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, so I mean, some inside stuff. Just I guess I have to be on the lookout now for what's to come. But
I love it.
Yeah, man.
It's called the 10th teammate. So anything with 10th teammate on it,
I like that.
Shout out to marketing.
Okay, the 10th teammate. I like that.
Yeah, so anything with that, you'll see.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, and you don't really see too many teams doing that these days. Like you see like the 12th man in Seattle and in Texas A&M, or the 6th man in basketball, like, but yeah, I really like that.
I think in baseball, oh gosh, there aren't a lot of teams. I think Detroit has like a brand, maybe one other. I'm blanking, but yeah. So, but it's not super common, I'd say.
Right. And yeah, okay. Next thing I want to talk to you about is a little bit about Cleveland. So I know you grew up in Chicago. You've been a Midwest guy your whole life. Like your dad takes you down to Nebraska every now and then. But you know, the two cities you probably spend the most time have been Chicago and Cleveland.
Yeah.
Unlike a lot of us who are from somewhere else and started working for the organization, you got a bit of a head start here in Cleveland. So what have been some of your favorite things to do around the city? Or what have been some of your favorite, you know, attractions and opportunities that have kept you in Cleveland for all this time?
Yeah, you know, 6.5 years. It's a lot of time. You know, it's funny. I really thought I was going to go back home after Case. I really was like, you know, like when you're from such a great city, all your friends move back and move into the city, and all your family. So for me, it was just like not even a question of like, do I want to be around my friends and family? Yeah, of course I do. But I have such a great reason to not be there with this job. But I think what's even cooler on top of that is I stayed because of the job, solely because of the job, really. But as I moved from the University Circle area to downtown, my appreciation for the city like really grew and changed. And I feel much more connected to the city now than I ever would have expected. I think there's this idea, because there's not like a direct, you know, like highway, for example, to take you from downtown to that like east side of the city. So University Circle, Cleveland Heights is kind of viewed as this silo a little bit. Like, even, you know, I noticed like a lot of the students stay there and they don't go downtown that much. And even people who are living and working around downtown, they don't go over there that much. Some of my favorite restaurants and places in the whole city are there. And so frequently I'm talking to people and they're like, what's that? I've never heard of that. I've never been there. And they know every single place in Tremont, Ohio City, downtown, anywhere around here. I mentioned some of my favorites there, and it's like, it's a different city. It's and it's only a 15-minute drive. It's crazy.
You're missing out on so much.
I know. So I love that area. I really do love that area. But I love this area, and I feel like it's cool to have a little bit of both. I think one thing about Cleveland, I mean, the accessibility of everything, it's like nothing's annoying here. Everything is affordable. It's a short drive. You don't have long lines. You don't have to worry about getting a reservation 2-3 weeks in advance. You can play it by ear. It's great. I mean, I can't tell you how many Browns games I've been to where I decided an hour before that I want to go. Like, oh, sure, why not? Concerts too. It's awesome.
Right.
All these great restaurants I've been to that I'm like, I decided I wanted to go 10 minutes before I walked in the door.
Yeah.
So I love that. But I think there's a real small city camaraderie. I felt that in Omaha whenever I go there too. Or there's like everyone's connected. There's this deep care and passion for the city. I think the food's great here. The museums are awesome. That area
the museums are great.
Yeah. I think there's a great culture here, and I've never really understood why it just gets so overlooked and gets kind of mocked.
Yeah,
including by many of my friends.
Right.
They do not get it. They don't get it. And I'm not trying to say like 1-to-1, everything being equal, Cleveland has more to offer than Chicago. I'm not arguing that.
Yeah.
But I'd say if we're taking this comprehensive picture of accessibility, affordability, city camaraderie, closeness, there are some real pluses.
Yeah.
So I've really liked it here. I've really, really liked it here. It's been a good 6.5 years now. Man, saying that out loud is when it really hits you. Like, time flies.
Right.
But,
yeah, man.
How's it been for you now? I mean, you're what, 2 years now?
Yeah, it'll be 2 years on Valentine's Day.
Nice.
That I moved here.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said in it just being like, I think pound for pound, Cleveland goes up with a lot of the big cities that, normally would, scoff at the idea that Cleveland's a quality city.
I agree with that.
Because I guess like cities, New York, Chicago, LA, Miami, like any of those other big cities. Oh, thank you. They'll look at Cleveland and be like, oh yeah, I've heard about Cleveland. They don't realize like we're right on a beautiful body of water in Lake Erie. Like I wouldn't go swimming in it.
Too. But... No, I wouldn't go swimming in that either. Lake Michigan is a little more blue. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh really? Okay.
Lake Erie, yeah.
But like it's still really nice. Like it's easily accessible. Like you can get on a boat, you can go fishing. Like a lot of people I know like to do those kind of things right on the water. You can go to the beach. Like it's we have all of what you'd expect out, or what you'd want out of like a nice city. Amazing sports.
Yeah, 3 teams all downtown.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
For now.
Yeah, right. Knock on wood.
We'll see.
But I think not that many cities have both a riverfront and a lakefront, for example.
Yes.
Like that's not common.
Exactly.
And I think the other thing too is when you think about it, like the city might not have the most money to work with. They don't bring in as many tax dollars. So it's like maybe the development isn't there yet. But if you compare now to 15 years ago, dude, like 15 years ago, not a soul lived downtown.
Right.
Because of safety concerns. Look at downtown now.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking at these 10, 15-year plans. I mean, that's a long time from now. It's probably not that likely we're going to be living around Ohio City downtown.
Right.
But like, like in 10, 15 years, there's going to be a super developed lakefront and a further developed riverfront. And I think as much as we like it now, I think it's going to be super legit.
Right. Like the next generation of like young professionals coming into Cleveland are going to really enjoy themselves.
I agree.
Yeah.
I really agree.
Yeah. Even looking at some of
like a top 3 orchestra in the country too. That one gets really overlooked. And Playhouse Square is the 3rd biggest theater district in the U.S. I think it's after New York and Chicago.
Wow. That's crazy. I didn't even know that.
It gets overlooked, man.
Yeah.
It really does. And my mom got me into musicals from when I was like a kid. So I am grateful to be next to Playhouse Square.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. You just walk right over there. You don't have to, hop in a car and park downtown. Like, I mean, you even down to like something as simple as parking downtown. Like, some people take for granted. Like, the only real traffic I've seen is like for a Browns game or a Cavs game or a Guards game.
Yeah.
Or like a big event that's happening. Yeah, a massive concert or something like that.
Besides that.
Yeah, right. Like I was just in DC the other day. Like it was traffic at like Tuesday at like 3 p.m.
Totally.
And I was like, why?
Yeah.
Or in Atlanta, it's horrible. Like
I've heard Atlanta's really bad.
Horrible.
Chicago's bad too.
Yeah.
Without traffic, I'm like where I'm from. I'm my suburbs like 25-minute drive from the city.
Right.
With it could be 2 hours.
Yeah. Exactly. And that just makes life hard on folks, honestly. So yeah, I get that completely. So I guess what would you, and this is kind of be how we wrap it up a little bit.
Yeah.
What would be some advice that you would give yourself maybe a few years back? Like maybe
I like that question.
Maybe it could be any version of Alex. Like maybe it's the 12-year-old that's, not as not as vocal, doesn't talk a lot, pretty shy.
Yeah.
Maybe it's that version of him, or it's Alex that's just leaving Chicago for the first time to go and live in Cleveland and go to school, or it's Alex, from 2 hours ago who who was just chilling this morning, deciding to put on that sweatshirt. Like, what would be advice that you'd give to yourself, like, just at any point?
That's such a good question. Man, I think I would have such different answers based on the point in time. So that's what I'm really.
You can give a couple of answers too.
Thinking about. I think, man, wow. I think for me, when I entered college, I'll start there maybe.
Okay.
So I think one thing that we talked about before was like, oh yeah, like oh, so many people at Case like know you or whatever, this, that. And I think I think about this sometimes where I'm like, doing all that in college, did that make me happy? Why was I doing that? Was I becoming who I really wanted to be? And I wouldn't argue that I was actually.
Really?
Which I think is interesting. I think particularly like when it got to like junior year in college, I started not becoming who like I wanted to be actually. I started diverging from the person I wanted to become and kind of like lost myself a little bit.
Right.
And I think I lost myself in this idea of like, I really want to be involved. I want to make an impact. But if you think about that too much, it can almost lead to this era of like even self-importance maybe.
Yeah.
You don't maybe know what's happening, but that's a huge problem. That's messed up. You can't have that happen. And I think it took a lot of reflection for me to say like, this, and this isn't good. You're worrying about the wrong things. Here's what you should worry about. And I'm really glad I've been able to totally stay true to that since I had those reflections in my senior year of college. But I think what I would have told myself entering college is to not be so obsessive over being impactful and instead think about what fulfills me, what can lead to happiness, and what can lead to my best version of myself in the future. And I think focusing on those things as your pillars are so important. And I think that's what would lead me to the best place. And I would say if I look at my adult self, I've really done that and I'm really happy for that.
Good.
But then there's this flip side of, but am I making the impacts I want to have? Am I being fulfilled? So I think that's that interesting counterbalance. And I think it is something to think about a lot. But I think that's just kind of like, I don't know, as things evolve, I think you're striking the balance a little bit. But I think for me, focusing on best version of myself, getting there, that'll lead me to like being fulfilled. And I'm very glad that like over these last couple of years, whatever it's 2.5 since I've worked here, like I'm really happy with like where I'm at, who I am, and being true to myself fully. Yes. I think the other piece of advice, like maybe through all of life generally, is just to like, I guess just to be appreciative of everything.
Amen.
Dude, it's just, I think we live in a world where it's just like everyone, so much complaining.
Man. Yeah.
Everyone's like, it's easy to harp on the negative. And it's like,
yes.
And I think you can also just get lost in that a little bit of just like an obsession with it almost. So I think just like saying like, this isn't great, but look at all that is. And so like, and I think that's also something that, perspective, I think probably just comes from like specific life experiences.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm happy to have like a little bit more perspective now, I'd say, of like getting up out of bed every morning and feeling grateful to be able to get out of bed and feeling grateful to be able to walk to work and feeling grateful to be able to watch a game or go to our ballpark, especially. That's not even a little thing. That's a big thing. But I think like genuinely thinking about that and feeling that has gone like such a long way for me. So I think that's the advice I'd give for myself. Man, I still got so much to learn and like so much to figure out, but it's good to feel like you're on the track in maybe a way that you didn't in college. So that's me. I don't know. That's my overarching thought. What advice would you give yourself?
Oh man,
I always hate when people ask me my questions back at them, but I'm curious, so I had to do it.
No, I know. And listen, I really like the idea of Bears are hiring Ben Johnson, by the way.
What? Oh my gosh! Whoa! Dude,
that's crazy.
Dude, as we're here, lifelong Bears fan here.
Right.
I didn't think we'd actually get him. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh
wow! I think that's big. I I think that is great for Caleb. That's hype. Thank you for letting me know.
Who are the Jets going to hire?
Not Ben Johnson.
Yeah, that's
maybe he'll get Aaron Glenn. Maybe he'll get the other Lions.
Oh, of course.
How about after that?
The guy that just let up 40 points to a rookie Commanders. Oh, brother.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, the Jets will figure it out.
We'll get someone.
Yeah, as you're asking me the deepest question of the day, that happens, of course. I really like what you said in terms of, and I guess that's probably why you and I connect so well, and like I feel like we've gotten along so well and have become friends, is because I like to be around like-minded individuals.
Yeah.
And like in our generation, there's a lot of people who like, whether it's their sense of comedy or their sense of coping or their sense of just maneuvering through life is like through like complaining and like being a bit negative and cynical, and like that sort of sentiment just never sat well with me. Like I've always been like
me as well,
glass half full type of person.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we get along so well.
I agree.
Become friends.
I am right there with you.
Because it's like a rare thing to see like these days where someone who really like enjoys being positive, enjoys being grateful, enjoys being happy, like it's something that isn't stressed enough these days.
No.
So that's probably one thing that I'd give to people.
Yeah.
Another thing that I would give to people, and then probably my biggest piece of advice, is find something greater than yourself. Like, I don't always want to steer people towards religion, because that's something I follow deeply, and that's something that I'm very outspoken about and passionate about. But like, if God isn't for you, then try at least looking at someone or something that you can make more important than you for certain aspects of your life. Because if we just get so involved in a bit of what you were talking about, like with the self-importance, like
that's a problematic mentality.
It really is. And like you kind of just get in your head, and you become less appreciative of what you have, and you become less aware of the perspective that others have. And I definitely think like just find something. That would be the biggest advice I'd give.
I like that.
Yeah, even though you just put me on the spot, so like that's the best I could come up with. But I think it's still pretty good. Yeah.
No, that's great. That's awesome. Do you think your like focus on positivity is rooted in your faith as well? In your religion?
Huge.
Yeah.
Hugely a part of it, because if you look at it from like the perspective of like being grateful to God, like that's literally what I practice every single day. Like as a Christian, like I pray, and I'm during my prayers, I'm extremely thankful. I'm thankful for everything, like my parents' health, my brother's health, like that type of stuff, like each and every day that a lot of people will take for granted. Like,
and a lot of people don't have that.
Exactly. And understanding like some people are dealing with, like everyone has their own burdens to bear and crosses to carry. And like understanding that has been a huge part of my, walk with faith, as well as a huge part of my walk in life. And so I think that's become intertwined for me. And I'm not sure about other people. Like everyone has their own journey. So that's probably where I get it from. Is that where yours is rooted too? Because I know that you're a faithful person, and I know I don't want to talk about something that if maybe you're not comfortable talking about, but up to you.
Yeah, I think for me, I think honestly, I think the positivity that focus and the gratitude focus, I like attribute that to like perspective that probably derived itself from difficulty. Honestly.
Oh, okay.
I think if I really think about it, like there's a beauty to pain. And I know that's like sounds like that can sound really messed up, but but I really mean that. Like I think there's this notion in life that we should really go through it unscathed, or it's bad to feel upset or sad. And the way I look at it is, I am genuinely appreciative that I know what those emotions feel like pretty deeply, because I know what it means to be in the eye of the storm when everything's not rainbows and unicorns. And because of that, I know what rainbows and unicorns looks like. I don't assume I get rainbows and unicorns every day.
Yeah.
I don't. So if I have the chance to create that in my own life, I'm going to. I'm going to focus on that. And I am going to be appreciative when I have that, or if I have that, because it is so not a guarantee. Right. So I think for me, it's come from like this idea of like, struggles are real, but struggles aren't bad. They make me who I am, and I'm proud of that. And they've given me a perspective, and it's allowed me to live a type of life that I don't think I would have otherwise.
Right.
So I think that's where it comes from for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
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 Wow. Okay. Well, I think we'll end it there. Like, I feel like this is the best way to sort of
that is a good way to end it.
Wrap up a good podcast. And I hope people who do give it a listen all the way to the end, because they'll able to hear, that the wonderful message. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience, or promote for yourself, or tell people to come to Case Western and listen to you on the PA? And
come to Cleveland.
Right. Yeah.
I got to start on my podcast again, because I enjoy this, man. I've been on a hiatus for like 2-3 years now. I might have to do a whole reboot, because I enjoyed this so much, man. I really enjoyed talking with you.
Exactly.
So I want to thank you for having me, man. This was a great conversation. I really appreciate it. This is great.
Absolutely. And, we appreciate you coming on. Any social media you want to shout out to the people?
Oh, yes. Sure. Feel free to follow me, _Alex_Gould. I'll probably promote my podcast on there. Fingers crossed.
Right. Yeah. And I'm excited to see what comes of that, because I know that if anybody has a voice and a personality for radio, it's you. Like, you can kill it.
Thank you, man. You're a good host, dude. You're a good host. I try. Man. You crushed it.
I try. But appreciate you coming on, Alex, and we'll see you next time.